with Jon Impemba and James Grande.
What is going on, FA Nation? Jon Impemba here with James Grande. Welcome into the Fantasy Alarm NBA DFS Playbook Show. We are here for the 4-game Tuesday main slate. And James, just when we thought we had all the answers to the test, they changed the questions on us here. Luka Doncic, now questionable. Right before we go live here, about 15 or 20 minutes ago. 10 p.m. start time for Dallas, Sacramento. Thankfully, we do have late swap available to us because we are going to discuss a very obvious, I think, strategy option for many here this evening. But on a slate that already had LeBron James ruled out, that had some pretty interesting and heavy ownership going towards one specific team and one specific spend up. If Luka gets ruled out, that is going to change some things for many in terms of their lineup construction. If that happens before roster lock, if it happens after roster lock, you're going to have to build your lineups and wait and see, I guess, on that Luka news here. But for 4 games, it got a lot more interesting today.
I guess the good thing is, like, Sacramento has a lot of pieces you can go to. Whereas, like, yesterday, for example, if we hadn't gotten the Denver news early, like, you would have kind of been stuck, yeah. I think, where, like, you can make a decision, okay, I'm going to just play this news out and hope for the best, right? And, like, whatever the best in your eyes is, whether that's Luka in, Luka out. Because right now, no one's playing Luka. So, like, on one hand, you're like, oh, well, shoot, I might have a 10% Luka Doncic tonight. And that on a 4-game slate, that could be a obvious difference. I mean, the ownership to the highest rostered expensive guy is Anthony Davis. He's also in a 9.5-point spread without LeBron on the road, right? So, like, there's that.
And on the road.
So, like, there's that caveat to where, like, you might just be getting a low on Luka. Potentially Lakers get blown out. You don't know. Like, we've talked about the Bucks throughout the year. They have not been good at, like, putting teams away. Like this. Now they did torch a fully healthy OKC team at home the other day, and that's, like, obviously a very impressive win with Chris Middleton back. This is just a different team,
right?
But, like, there is specific. You have to make a decision. We say this all the time, but, like, it's a 4-game slate. There's 2 hours in between the 8 p.m. window and the 10 p.m. window, right? Like, 2 7:30 games, 8 p.m., 10 p.m. You can make that decision and decide, I'm just going to wait it out. I'm going to plug Kyrie. The obvious pivot is to a member of the Kings, or I'm going to play Luka. And here's my pivots where I can go to Sabonis, which is still a great spot. It's a great spot. Like, go to Sabonis, play Gafford, like, like, there's a lot of pivots going that route. But again, that also kind of cuts you off from shorthanded Lakers. We don't know anything about Miami officially. Like, Jimmy Butler missed shoot around this morning. If Jimmy Butler doesn't play, there's a whole lot to like for Miami. Like, OKC is a really good team. New Orleans, the 4 seed, by the way, 2 versus 4. We talk about, like, wanting to play guys in games that matter. Well, New Orleans also missing, one of their big 3, which provides a lot of
and ownership kind of interesting on the Pelican side tonight as well. Some names that are getting some extra love there on the 4-gamer, probably because there isn't a ton of obvious value.
Right.
And there are value plays on that Pelican side of that game. Listen, I agree with you. I think an interesting way to go and approach the Dallas-Sacramento game is kind of do what you a little bit alluded to there is maybe you plug in Sabonis as your top spend and you have, like, Monk in there and you have some other guys. And then if Luka gets ruled out, you can go down from Sabonis to Gafford and then pivot up to Fox, pivot up to Kyrie Irving in your guard spots and kind of leave some maneuverability around in those areas. Or, like you said, you play Luka gets ruled out. Well, now you can go down to an Irving or a Fox and go up from a Gafford to a Sabonis and kind of play around with your lineup builds there. Obviously, you'd have to leave a little bit more money on the table and have some extra flexibility because of the pricing of Luka versus Sabonis and all that stuff. But there's definitely paths there, because like you said, on the last ownership run, Luka was already only getting 7-8%. With him now questionable and at a 10 p.m. start, that probably drops. I can't imagine the same 10% are plugging in Luka Doncic and not knowing what's going to happen there tonight when they know that Anthony Davis or Giannis are going to be playing, or SGA is going to be playing in those spots. So, you could have a 2%, 3% Luka Doncic tonight if he suits up. So, obviously, that's news I hope and wish we would have. We'll keep our fingers crossed. 7:30 roster lock tonight, again a little bit later than usual here. With it being just 4 games, obviously, we'll go through this one a little bit quicker than usual, but we do appreciate you all in the chat already. Coach Chris and Justin popping in there. If you guys have any questions, comments, throw them in the chat. We're happy to answer you guys tonight as well. And, like Coach Chris says here, hit the like button. Free way to support our show. If you haven't done so already, just tap that like button there. Helps us boost up the YouTube algorithms. Coach Chris saying he doesn't trust Anthony Davis by himself. I mean, there's been times AD's in alone this year, and he's popped off for some big time performances. If you're worried maybe that, the Giannis versus AD matchup is concerning, or Brook Lopez versus AD, maybe, sure. I know they've been playing a lot of Bobby Portis as well. I understand those worries, but like Anthony Davis can certainly on a team by himself put up 70, 80 fantasy points. So I'm not as concerned. I'd be more concerned about what Vegas is telling us there, where they're 9-point road underdogs. That's a worry. I think for me more than anything else. Talking about the game totals and spreads here for this slate, like I mentioned, just 4 games here on the NBA slate. Golden State and Golden State and Miami rather. As you mentioned, Miami, we're not fully sure what that team is going to look like here tonight, but Miami is just getting 3. There's an opportunity, I think, to maybe bet Golden State here, and maybe get the 3. You don't know. You don't think so? Even if Miami fits everybody, you don't think there's a chance that Golden State pulls this one out?
Golden State lost to a San Antonio team without Wemby like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, but we've talked about that. No. We've thought Phoenix just lost.
I know.
There's a lot of talent on the San Antonio team.
I know.
Jeremy Sohan went for 26 and 18 last night. But if you're looking at a DeLon Wright, Patty Mills, Miami team, Bam by himself here with Highsmith and Jovic, like Golden State's going to win that game.
I'm not so confident.
They're going to win that game. You don't think so?
I'm not as confident. I would not be as confident. I would not bet Golden State in that game.
I would bet Golden State given the 3 here tonight. If Butler was to sit. That game again, Miami getting 3, 217.5 total. Lakers, Bucks giving 9.5, 232. Thunder, Pelicans getting 1 at home, 223.5, and Dallas, Sacramento, Kings giving 1, 233.5.
I see 3. I see 3. By the way, that's moved since the Luka news. I see up to 2.5 on some books, 3 on others.
All right, so that makes sense. Makes sense that the line would move a little bit. People betting into Sacramento there for sure. All right, let's look at the slate again. Point guard position, you have Luka. We've discussed it. If he's in, you like him. He's now going to probably be under 5%. So certainly some field leverage there if he was to play. If not, you can make the decision to go SGA. But I mean, at this point, I think you're just plugging in Kyrie Irving and waiting on the news. If Luka's out, smash play for Kyrie Irving. If Luka's in, you play De'Aaron Fox at $8,800 and just go from there.
Yeah, and I think De'Aaron Fox is a pretty good consolation if Luka does play, because 54 fantasy points per game against Dallas in 2 meetings, 47, 50, 53, 36, 55, 45 over the last 6 games for De'Aaron Fox. So hasn't hit in 45 fantasy points just once. So he's been smashing 5X essentially every night, and they need him to. Like, this is a stretch of games where they need to get it out of the play-in. Right, they're currently the 6th seed. I believe both them and Dallas won last night, so they stay tied. They being the Kings currently own the tiebreaker. That is why I am a little hesitant to think Luka would sit this game, just given the same record and the need to not be in the play-in tournament, because anything can happen in a 1-game series versus you just don't want to be in a 1-game series at the end of the day. You take your chances in a 7-game series. And Sacramento owns the tiebreaker currently. So like, I do think Luka ends up playing, and that is what it is. But
Sure.
yeah, you could definitely go with the strategy of play Kyrie, pivot to Fox, because Fox is a perfectly fine consolation prize.
Agreed. In the mid tier, D'Angelo Russell getting all the love and ownership here today. You've talked about it extensively during this season. When LeBron James is off the floor, D'Angelo Russell is somebody that just goes off. Now he gets Milwaukee. I think it's notable. No Patrick Beverley for the Bucks here tonight. Obviously, we've talked about the Bucks defensive changes, over the, since the Doc Rivers era kind of, but I think a lot of that also coincides with, Patrick Beverley did come over and he is more known for defense than anything else. So now he's not in the picture here tonight. Russell still at $7,200. I think fits perfectly into a lot of guard builds tonight.
I sent this to you earlier. The last game LeBron missed was a home game against Milwaukee. D'Angelo Russell scored a lot of points. It was March 8th. So you go scroll way back up. March 8th.
Carrots.
44 of them he scored. And again, I'm not saying that's going to happen again, but it has been something that I've talked about a lot. Like, he's 1.2 fantasy point per minute guy without LeBron, with AD. He's been an elite fantasy producer because it's just a different team when the offense funnels through AD in the post versus LeBron handling the ball at the top of the key, right?
Yeah.
So I do think that there's a ceiling for D'Lo. He's getting all the ownership, so it's not a secret. But I'm perfectly fine eating this chalk and kind of moving on. It's a great play. And like, not to take anything away from Austin Reeves, he's almost a 1.1, so he's obviously elevated his play without LeBron too. 1.1 fantasy points per minute, but like, still D'Lo is still outperforming him by 0.1 fantasy points per minute, which is in a 38-minute span does matter quite a bit when it's only a $200 difference. So I lean D'Lo. Obviously Reeves has slightly better eligibility, and then there's just like, hey, CJ McCollum's like, hey, what about me? I'm over here, 39, 50 fantasy points in back-to-back games. Oh, by the way, Brandon Ingram not in those games, and suddenly shot attempts 18 and 21 in those outings. Again, like, perfectly good pivot. I know Shea is a very good defender. He probably sees a little Lou Dort in this game, which is not fun for anybody. I think Dort also guards Zion as well. But like, CJ's been nails basically every time Brandon Ingram's been off the floor this year, and I don't see that slowing down here. All the minutes, all the shots, the three ball for McCollum again, John. Like, he was killing from the 3-point line earlier in the year, and again, 5 for 9, 6 for 12, 3 for 6, like making every three. So I think CJ's a perfectly fine pivot. If you don't want to wait out that late game, I think he's,
Yeah, 100% agree with you on that one. Obviously, again, 40% of the field getting to Russell, but still 20% playing CJ McCollum here. Would be super curious again if we get a sort of updated rostership.
Jimmy,
what am I looking at?
There it is.
What? Is he out?
No, but he's downgraded to questionable. There's no way that you're missing shoot around with an illness, but like, yeah, I'm good to go. Like, that's just not the case.
That's what I'm saying. You wouldn't bet Golden State, honestly?
No, dude, they've been not good.
I don't know.
Like, we saw this earlier. I think it was the Bam, I want to say Bam solo versus like Cleveland.
But Bam solo probably still had like Jaquez and Caleb Martin and like
Bam solo in Milwaukee on February 13th. 16, 12, 11, only had to play 31 minutes because they beat Milwaukee by 26.
But who else played in that game?
Like, in terms of the Heat or the Bucks?
No, the Heat. What was the roster for? Because they're without more than just that.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Potentially. Because there's no confirmation about. All right, let's look at the 13th. February 13th. Bam triple-double in that game.
Yeah.
He blew Milwaukee out of the gym. Starting lineup was Bam Adebayo. All right,
Yeah.
to your point, it is fair, but like I think there's like some plugs. Jovic,
Yeah.
D-Rob, Duncan Robinson. That was the Jovic Robinson 3-point bonanza. Do you remember that one
Sure.
where they made
Yeah,
all
yeah.
those 3 points? Hero, Caleb Martin. That was their starting five.
Yeah, they could be without 4 of those guys tonight.
They could
Oh,
be 3, yeah.
They're definitely without Hero.
We'll
Duncan
plug
Robinson
Rozier.
ain't-
Well, Rozier in for Hero. That's
Sure.
probably a neutral change. The Robinson loss is definitely something. Martin, we'll see. He's questionable. He played last game. I assume he'd play tonight.
And Hawkes is questionable.
And Hawkes is questionable. He played off the bench in that game.
Sure.
So he was
Right, but
he
I'm
was
saying, like,
available.
they could be down those guys and playing Patty Mills and DeLon Wright, and I don't know who is. What is this guy? He's recalled from the G League. Alondes Williams could be in the lineup tonight. Like, who knows?
I am just telling you. You are very confident in Golden State. They are just not a good team right now.
If Hawkes and Caleb Martin get ruled out with Butler, I would bet Golden State in this game.
Okay, that's fair. I'm not like trying to like.
But that's all I've been trying to say is if all those guys get ruled out, Golden State is going to clean up at -3.
I'm gonna just bet the Heat. I'm gonna bet the Heat because I just
Reeves better than Russell at 20% for 41%. If you're doing an ownership play, then sure. I mean, on a 4-game slate, if you want to take the chance
leverage
of Reeves outperforming, that's how you beat the field right there,
yes.
Right? Like,
yes,
100%. Again, I think 41% goes down if Luka gets ruled out.
Agreed. And I mean, we'll see what the spiral of Jimmy being out would be too, because like. What if Jimmy, Hawkes, Martin all got ruled out? Like then we're talking like all the ownership's going to Rozier, right? Then everyone's playing Rozier.
I'm gonna go see exactly what the usage ends up looking like in that situation. If we just like rule out all of Miami,
and it's Bam and Rozier.
Yeah, pretty much. Let's see. No Robinson, no Love, who may be back. We don't know yet. Lowry, Butler,
Hero,
Martin, Hawkes, Richardson.
There's not even going to be minutes. There's not even going to be minutes for this.
It's probably not going to be even minutes for this. I would agree with you. Let's see. Mm-hmm. Yeah, 22-minute sample size. Yeah, nobody has anything. Looks like you want to play Cole Swindler, 33% usage rate.
I mean, what are we doing?
Anyways, where are you on the value point guards tonight? Jose Alvarado is getting ownership love. Yes. And your guy, Keon Ellis, is not. So if you had to pick one of value guards here, $4,100 Alvarado, $4,500 Keon Ellis.
I mean, like the Ellis spot is, I think there's multiple things working in Ellis' favor. One, he starts. That's definitive. He's going to start. Alvarado's not. 2, there's just this higher upside for minutes for Keon Ellis. I know, again, he was bad last night. But we just saw 37 minutes 2 games ago when he was really good. The other side of the coin, or Ellis has better eligibility. The other side of the coin, Alvarado is cheaper. But I don't think the spot's any better. I mean, I would probably just play the lower owned guy in that instance because I feel more confident normally about Keon Ellis's minutes, just given that we have seen 34, 37 twice in the last 5 games. So.
And as you pointed out on the show this morning, last time LeBron sat against Milwaukee, we got a start from Spencer Dinwiddie. 34 minutes. They played 3 guards in that lineup. Reeves, Russell, Dinwiddie all started. $4,600 for Spencer Dinwiddie if you had to add him into that equation tonight if he was starting.
It's definitely not as appealing, like maybe as it was the other day when he was $1,000 cheaper. But sure. I mean, I think just it would have to at least cross our minds, just given there's not a lot of value on the slate.
Okay, yeah, that works. Appreciate you all tuning in. If you haven't already, toss a like down on today's show. There's a free way to support us. If you have any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat as well. James and I are here to help you out. Breaking down this 4-gamer as all the news comes piling in. Shooting guard position, as we discussed already with Irving, we're certainly looking to play him and maybe pivoting down if Luka plays. We've discussed Reeves as Justin popped in here, getting a lower rostered Reeves over Russell, maybe a little bit better for a cheaper price. You do have Rozier, Monk, and Murphy in the 6K tier. Murphy obviously getting minutes with no Ingram, missed all of his shots the other day against the Pistons. Could be a low roster bounce back spot for him. If you had to take a look at sort of this range of Rozier, Monk, Murphy, and maybe throw a little Giddy in there as well, how would you approach it?
I mean, Rozier obviously would be the most appealing if Jimmy's ruled out. I think there's just a lot on the table for him in this spot. So Rozier would be first if there's no Jimmy. Monk always in play in tournaments, ultimate green light. Trey Murphy always in tournaments, ultimate green light. I mean, there's no real difference between the two. It's another situation for me between Monk and Murphy. Maybe you just play the lower owned of the two. Maybe also you factor in that Sacramento played yesterday, and maybe you'd like the guy, the jump shooter, not on a back-to-back, right? Monk's minutes haven't been great in 3 of the last 4 games. I know one was a blowout, one he went 0 for 11, and both those things kind of an anomaly. He has the better spot overall, but Murphy's not on the back-to-back, and is starting and playing regularly more minutes when he starts. So
Yep.
I think there's advantages to playing both. I might lean Murphy a little bit, but I have no problem getting to either. And again, Rozier's first for me if Butler's out, and probably last for me if he's not.
So just kind of limiting the off court, because obviously we mentioned if you take everybody off, nobody has any minutes. But without Robinson, Butler, and Hero on the floor this season, Terry Rozier is the highest usage rate on the team at 30.9%. Translates to just 1 fantasy point per minute, but still, if he's going to go out there and play 35 minutes tonight, there's definitely some good value there at $6,800. I do like Malik Beasley here. I know that they're healthy, but it's a small slate. He's a shooter. I don't mind getting here to be a little different tonight at $4,700 because there isn't really a ton of value. Obviously, if Luka gets ruled out, we could be looking at Exum at 43 or Hardaway at 44, but we don't have that information yet. So,
yeah, and the Beasley point, I mean, there's no Beverly, so he's not going to get taken off the floor for defense late in this game.
right.
So, because you could see Beasley getting taken off the floor against the Lakers if Beverly was there, because the Lakers are playing 3 guards.
Yeah.
But without Beverly, they are going to need Beasley. I mean, they were using him as their primary on-ball defender for most of the first half of this year until Beverly was acquired. So he's going to be on the floor, probably guarding D'Lo for most of this game. And yeah, 4,700 is a pretty good price.
Yeah, agreed. Trying to kind of think this one through here. If there was any other plays,
I got a gross one.
Any value plays for you at shooting guard?
And I'm not totally sold on it. One, Patty Mills is getting some ownership, so that's something. But AJ Green has quickly become a guy for Doc Rivers off the bench. Other than the Boston game, which he still played in, was kind of surprising. He's playing teens and upwards of 20s minutes. No Beverly provides a lot of minutes. I think there's multiple routes that the minutes could go. They can go to Connaughton. They can just give Middleton. They can just give the starters extra run. Portis gets a couple extra. Lopez gets a couple extra. And Green still sits in this low teens minutes. But I think there's a realistic possibility that his ability to space the floor, which is why he's, that's his specialty. He's shooting 42% from 3 this year. Obviously not a lot of volume. Dude, but 165 shots, he's taken 142 threes. All he's doing is out there, he's shooting threes. If AJ Green gave you exactly the Brooklyn line, where he took 7 shots, he made 5 threes, he got you 19 fantasy points, you're like, that's a win. And Patrick Beverly was in that game. I think that there's a realistic possibility to where in a pace-up game, because the Bucks have been really slow in the second half of the year, against a really bad defense, you're seeing he's kind of not beginning to usurp guys like Crowder or Connaughton just yet, but no Beverly, they don't have a backup guard. They can use Middleton or Giannis as your de facto ball handler. They don't need a necessarily point guard, but Green is a great floor spacer for them. I could see him getting somewhere close to 20 minutes without Beverly. And if you were to tell me he gets 20 minutes and gets anywhere close to like the 7 threes he's taken in 2 of the last 4 games, then I'm willing to bet on him because he's shooting over 40%. So,
Sure.
and he's min salary. So, I
We
mean,
know the Lakers struggled to defend the perimeter.
it's gross. It's really gross. And I'm not saying,
I mean,
he needs to go
CW must
there.
be on a little bit of a delay because he asked this question as you were in your middle of your rant. But yeah, man, like you said, we're thinking there could be some potential for him to get some run. You just have to be aware of what the floor is on this play.
Zero.
It's zero. It is zero. So, you know, if you play him, just know what you're doing. It's a $3,000 play for a guy that has given you more single-digit fantasy points over the last 5 games than double-digit fantasy points over the last 5 games, including a 0. So there's risk involved in this, but obviously at 3K, it allows you to spend up, get a little funky with your lineups on a 4-game slate. Small forward position. Again, Butler now downgraded to questionable, so probably not playing. I said to you this morning, I thought Middleton was one of my favorite plays at the price. I mean, I'm just going to continue to plug here. Played 33 minutes against Boston. Would have gone over 30 minutes against OKC if not for the blowout. This guy, we've how many times have we said it this year? Chris Middleton is not a 6K range player. He is a 7K plus, 8K plus at times player when he is going as well as we've seen him go in the past. Obviously, Lillard being on the team this year has cut into a little bit of the offensive production, but look at the assist numbers we've been getting out of him, 8 or more, or 6 or more now in 5 of the last 6 games, couple of 8 assist games in here. We know the scoring can be there. So at $6,700, I'm definitely buying in to some Middleton here today. BZ, we're fine with Mills, especially if Butler ends up being ruled out tonight. I mean, like, they're going to have to play somebody. So, yeah.
Also, salute to you, BZ. It's been a minute. Middleton has been great. And this is the point of, he's just like your ball handler when Lillard's not on the floor. 38, 41, 43 fantasy points. The minutes limit's gone. Essentially gone. I don't think we're going to see 36 minutes, but just the fact that in a competitive game, in a game that really matters. Also, crazy stretch for Middleton to return in, huh? Phoenix, Boston,
I mean,
OKC,
they needed him, right?
No, agreed. And they're 2-1 in that stretch. Competitive game against Boston without Giannis, but there's 30 minutes on the table for Middleton here. Again, I don't think triple-double like every night, but even if the assists and rebounds go down, he's a better scorer than 11 points too, especially when he gets the minutes. So I love 6,700 for Middleton. I missed the days where he was shooting guard small forward eligible. Not gonna lie, those were fun. But no one's playing, and I think this is a tremendous spot for the Bucks, and not a lot of people are getting there. To Giannis, everyone's getting to the Lakers side. Dude, the Bucks are 10-point home favorites with. I mean, Lillard's a little too pricey, but like Giannis is. You can get.
And Lillard had a huge game in that game against the Lakers. He had 28-point double-double. So
like, dude, there's a lot to like about Milwaukee considering their ownership tonight, and Chris Middleton's at the forefront of that. I like you said, like the wrinkle of Lillard being there is a wrinkle, but 38, 41, 43 fantasy points in 3 straight games, no doubt in my mind.
Yeah, I think Lillard being there, like I said, is kind of keeping the price down on Middleton, just the way the algorithms are kind of working for usage rates and shot attempts here. After that, though, I mean, again, we've talked Monk and Murphy. There's Herb Jones, who I do like. I think there's a pivot play for Herb at some low rostership. Najee Marshall is someone that you pointed out, and the ownership is kind of on him as well, over 20 minutes now in back-to-back games, 30 and 25 fantasy points, $4,300. He's getting some run without Ingram here. Could see him on the floor a decent bit. And again, ownership sitting around 20+% on him tonight.
Dude, Najee Marshall is always doing something good. Like when he's on the floor, I feel like it's like he's getting steals, he's making shots. Like he is a very productive player when he's out there. I'm perfectly fine if you end up on the Pelicans are going to be popular. They're also, again, they're the 4 seed. They're playing the 2 seed tonight. They need to continue to win. They're playing a shortened rotation. We've seen Zion's minutes up. We've seen McCollum's minutes up. Like Trey Murphy, Herb, like there is plenty of minutes for Najee at both forward spots to get to what we need at 4,300.
So we did get an ownership update, and we'll obviously publish that to the site momentarily here. Luka actually went up 2%. So we'll see if that gets readjusted, or if they're thinking people will just play him and then pivot if he ends up being ruled out, right? Like, I think maybe that's drawing more people maybe to plug Luka Doncic tonight. So, we'll see. We'll see how that one ends up playing, but no real changes. Still over 40% of the field going to Russell, 30% of the field going to Anthony Davis here tonight. So, nothing too different going on there. I guess we'll talk about it center, because there is a center we should discuss. Couple of centers on the same team, I guess we'll talk about given the ownership here.
Yeah.
Would you go back to Highsmith if everybody's out tonight?
Yes, if everyone's out.
Anybody else?
Lou Dort starts, but that's the extent.
Power forward, Giannis is here at 11-3. Again, we talk about a lot, everybody basically playing Anthony Davis. Nobody's really in on Luka Doncic. Sort of likewise for Giannis tonight, under 15%. They're the home favorites here. So if you think that Giannis goes off, then certainly can plug. The cover of our show today was Zion Williamson. You've been touting him now for like 3 years. He's healthy, he's in shape, and we're getting some of the best basketball we've seen out of him consistently.
Yeah, I think it is almost by far the best. Like, outside, of course, he has the 4-point game against Miami, but like they just didn't need him. They just blew Miami out of the water. Every other game has been dominant. The minutes for me, like every time there's a competitive game, like we've just never seen Zion getting 35, 36 minutes before. And that's obviously new. The efficiency's off the charts. His ability to get to the foul line, his passing has been amazing. The rebounding has been improved. There's just really no downside to playing Zion right now. So if you want to play him in cash tournaments, by all means, do it, because he's going to get you 45 plus fantasy points.
Yeah, I mean, again, no real arguments for me on this one. After that, obviously jumps down in pricing wise. Jalen Williams is 69. You've pointed out Kuminga's peripheral stats haven't been great, but maybe this is a spot where the Heat are so depleted and Kuminga just plays the minutes and they rest some of the other guys. If this game goes the way I think it might go. Bobby Poe, you've talked about $6,100 here. Keegan Murray is getting some ownership love here tonight, and then I like Hachimura at 56.
Yeah, power forward is interesting. I mean, J-Dub 69, a little disappointing the last few games, but basically 3 blowouts he was involved in. The scoring's been great. The peripheral stats have been down, so I'd be willing to go back to Williams. I'm just not playing Kuminga really. Just like everything's so inconsistent. When they're scoring, there's not peripherals outside of the Memphis game. Minutes, like, why are we capping him at 30 minutes? It's just weird. So, I'd rather play Draymond. Portis is kind of out just playing Brook Lopez right now. The minutes have been more secure on Portis. So, if we're gonna continue to get 28 plus minutes out of Bobby Portis, there's a ceiling despite them being fully healthy. Hachimura is a solid option. I don't think he's like groundbreaking. We've seen a couple big performances out of him this year. But he has been very steady. I don't love 5,600. I know LeBron's out, and that could obviously be something. 5,600 though, a little bit out of my price range. I see through you. Just cannot let PJ Washington go. I mean, he will go to the grave with PJ Washington in his lineup. Like, when DFS one day finally dies, he will do whatever it takes to get PJ Washington into his lineup. And I don't know if I'm going to get PJ Washington. PJ obviously is fine. I mean, he plays a bunch of minutes. If there's no Luka, like, there's a ceiling. He's been pretty bad lately, though. So I'd probably pass on PJ Washington.
So Washington, I think, is only interesting just for if Luka gets ruled out.
If Luka's out. It's only if Luka's out.
Because, I mean, he's been like paying the price tag, but he hasn't been like exceeding the price tag lately. But obviously the shotguns will be there. We talked Jovic a little bit, $4,200. Anybody else at power forward for you?
I mean, if Butler's out, Jaquez and Martin, they play. Like, they're definitely in play. If none of them play, I would play Jovic almost in every scenario, because it's just like going to be a game where they're so shorthanded. And then we'd start talking about, like, we'd actually probably start talking about guys like Jamal Cain and Highsmith, like, seriously in situations like that. But I would have interest in the Miami guys. Harry B getting some solid ownership. I don't know if I want to go there. Highsmith we talked about. I don't think there's.
And then the center position here tonight. Sabonis 10-5, getting around 15%. AD, your highest rostered center on the board at 10-3. Bam at 83. Chet and Draymond in the mid-tier. We both like Gafford. But if you're looking at ownership tonight, Valanciunas and Larry Nance are two guys that are rivaling Anthony Davis here. What are your thoughts considering they're splitting the time?
So I think to the Valanciunas point, OKC knows that they can't rebound, and Mark Daigneault has talked about it, where they like, yeah, we kind of suck on the glass, but like we make up for it other way. Like they're like first in the steals per game, first in transition points. Like they do everything else really well, but they're really bad at rebounding. So you look at Valanciunas, you're like, well, how is anyone going to keep him off the glass? And then you've looked at the games Valanciunas has had against them in 20 minutes. I mean, almost 17 and 9, right? Like in 20 minutes per game. Like it makes sense. They can't keep him off the glass because he's too big and they can't rebound. So I don't hate that.
Trying to see the first game that they had. He went 19 and 9 in that first game in 21 minutes, 14 and 9 in the second game in 20 minutes. So
there is a rebounding advantage on the side of New Orleans. And then the Nance part, it's like we know he's cheaper. We know he's going to, in a competitive game, likely start the second half. I mean, conversely, where OKC has the advantage is Chet, right? Valanciunas cannot chase Chet around the way that Chet is on the perimeter, the way that he cuts to the basket. Like there's just no way Chet can hang with that. So you just assume, well, Nance is going to pick up the rest of the center minutes unless they decide, let's test the Zion at center theory tonight, right? That's the caveat that we haven't really seen them deploy in long stretches during the regular season. I feel like that's going to be a big wrinkle they have in the postseason because, there it is. Jimmy Butler out, Kevin Love out. So we should be getting maybe some Caleb Martin and Jaime Jaquez news.
I would imagine so, right?
Because, let's see. We have Jimmy Butler downgraded to questionable. That was 24 minutes ago. I'm trying to check my beat writers page to see if we have Jimmy Butler and Kevin Love out. We do not have anything official on the other two yet.
Okay.
So that's per Ira Winderman, who's the Heat beat writer, like the primary, 36 years. No Butler, no Love. All right. So we're on center. So we're circling back to Bam. Of the centers, what is Bam's priority for you? Like priority number. Is he?
I would like to know who he's playing with.
I almost don't care.
Okay.
I'm probably gonna get to Bam at 83, no matter in almost every scenario. Dude, he's just so good on a fantasy point per minute.
Yeah.
When there's no Jimmy,
that's fine. I'm not even arguing. I'm not even arguing that. I would just like to know who he's playing with. There haven't been many games where they've been the ones getting blown out. He did play 33 minutes against the Knicks here back in January. They lost by 16.
I assume if Jaquez plays, your starting lineup is Rozier, Mills, Jaquez,
Jovic, Butler.
Jovic, Bam.
Jovic, Bam, rather. Yeah.
And then you have Caleb Martin as your sixth man. Highsmith, Evan. Yeah. And this is assuming like everyone else is in, assuming the other two are in. And like DeLon Wright is your 8, right? That's like your 8-man rotation. Sure. Maybe like crumbs to like Jamal Cain and Thomas Bryant, like they get crumbs. Man, I'm really interested in Miami tonight, John.
Okay.
Like the way that Golden State's been kind of subpar lately, and just how shorthanded Miami is.
Sure. They have to play, is what you're saying.
They're just gonna play. Like they're just gonna play all these.
I don't mind playing them for DFS purposes. I'm just saying I don't think they win this game.
You're betting the house on Golden State, is what you're saying.
Yeah, it's up to 4.5 now too. It's not even 3 anymore. Sad. Yeah. All right. Well, let's get a lineup build here, man. Where do you want to start things tonight?
Bam.
Starting with Bam. Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
How are we handling Dallas and Sacramento?
we handle Dallas as if Luke is in.
Okay.
Because until he's ruled out, I think we have to assume that he's playing. Just given the magnitude of the game for standings purposes, because Sacramento wins again, which again I don't know if they've won both meetings. Let's see. I know they've beat them once. If Dallas can win the season series, they're 2-0 against Dallas this year. So, assuming they play 2 more games.
Yep.
Then there's a different tiebreaker. I just assume that he's playing.
Okay.
Oh, you just went AJ Green. You savage.
We're getting dirty with it, man.
Cooking with gas. So are we playing Bam? So in this lineup, we're playing Bam over Anthony Davis.
Yeah. That would appear to be the case. Najee Marshall, $8,100 util. McCollum, I guess. Reeves.
Yeah, I mean, probably CJ, and then we have money.
$800.
Keegan Murray from Hachimura if you wanted to, but I know you like Hachimura. Or going from Rozier to double up the Lakers. Go Reeves.
I mean, we can go up from Marshall to Jaquez or Martin if they're in there.
Yeah, I would like that. That would be good. That would be good too.
So we'll wait. And if they're in, we'll play one of those two. But Rozier, Green, Middleton, Hachimura, Bam, Russell, Marshall, McCollum. 4-game slate doesn't feel great that we're not doing any spend ups here, but obviously we know Bam has a huge ceiling. We know Russell has a big ceiling in these spots. So a bit of a fair and balanced build. Luka news could change the world though. If we get that before.
Get that early. Yeah.
7:30 is your roster lock time. I'll be in the Discord and obviously updating the playbook with the news as it comes through. Get us on Twitter. Find us in the Discord. If you're not already a Fantasy Star member, go sign up. fantasystar.com/win. Get access to all of our DFS content for all sports today. And MLB DFS playbook's already out for Thursday. I wrote that, so you can go check that one out as well. Good luck, everybody. Tonight, we'll be back tomorrow. We'll see you then.